Ladies and gentlemen, it is week 3 of the IBL, and I have here the team builder versus Beta and the Jumpluff Express. I love his logo. It's basically a Jumpluff spitting out a train, and it's just awesome. So last week, we got a pretty solid 3-0 win against our boy Sock. It was a pretty crazy match. We played very strange, both of us, and it was very hacksy as well. But hey, despite all that, we won. I did make a rather silly mistake in going out into Rhyperior when I did, when Flygon could have just won me the game. But hey, it only cost us a single point in differential. Of course, that point did matter because now we are in 3rd place overall. We would have been tied for 2nd had we not lost Rhyperior the way that we did. And even so, like, he still managed to survive and get a kill due to hacks. And then I got hacked right back with the miss of the 95% accurate. Is it 90 or 95? It's one of those two. It's a very accurate rock move, but I missed, and that cost me my life. And then I missed again with Gyarados, but we finally hit. So yeah, that was a bit of a meme battle. So yeah, it was fun though. It was fun. So without any further ado, here's my opponent's team. He's got G-Max Corviknight. So this is another freaking Corviknight. This is 2 Corviknights in a row. But hey, after this week, no more Corviknights. Steel Flying is just such a hard type combination to deal with. And there are no more Steel Flyings to deal with after this week. So I'm happy about that. He's got Inteleon, which is a really fast and decently hard-hitting water-type Pokemon. Doesn't have the best move pool in the world, but it can go physical or special, and it's you know, it's pretty useful. He's got Dugtrio, which is, oh my god, it's another trapping Pokemon. So this guy has a move called Arena Trap, or not a move, an ability called Arena Trap. Basically, if you're not a flying type Pokemon, does it work on ghosts? I don't know if it works on ghosts, but I don't have a ghost, so it doesn't matter. But basically, you're stuck in the arena with it. And this thing's really fast too. And a lot of my Pokemon, particularly the ones I could deal with it with, are weak to Earthquake. So this thing can just, you know, come in, trap me, and probably OHKO me with an Earthquake. Especially if he's Choice Banded or Life Orbed. Like, he can just do so much damage. I don't have to worry about the Focus Sash set, because he probably won't bring it against someone who has Hail, like I do. And spoiler alert, I will be bringing Ninetales, so I will be having Hail, so I don't have to worry about Focus Sashes. Next up is Leafeon. Leafeon is widely regarded as not a good Pokemon, but it has a decent matchup against my team, and it does a good job at stopping a few of my potential sweepers. So I could actually see it coming, and I'm definitely preparing for it. Next up is Duraludon, which is an amazing value for where it gets picked usually, tier 3. It's a rocker, pretty strong physical defense, strong special attack, very, very good coverage. So definitely something I need to watch out for. And next up was Goodra. Goodra is a thick dragon type that I just don't like going up against this thing, because it always seems to have more like HP and health than you would think. It can always take like a much stronger attack than you think it can, and then you're in a bad position afterwards because it hits pretty hard too. It also has a move Sap Sipper, which can lower, or it can't lower, that's gooey. It can basically raise its attack and absorb any grass type move used against it. So no more grass type moves. I've been bringing a lot of them the last 2 weeks. That will not be happening here. He doesn't have a major grass type weakness anyway. Just the first 2, I think, are the only ones. And Stunfisk. Yeah. Next up is Phalanx. Phalanx. It's I always think it's a bug type Pokemon, but it's a pure fighting type. It's got a move called No Retreat, which makes it trapped in the battle, similar to as if Dugtrio came in on it. But it traps itself in the battle, but it boosts all of its stats. It gives himself a +1 to all of his stats. It can be pretty tricky to deal with. I don't know if it's coming or not. I don't know enough about it. Like, it's got a lot of moves that I don't know what they are. But could be interesting if it comes. I'm not very well prepped for it. So once again, every time I say that, the Pokemon always comes. So, but I do have ways of dealing with it, or at least presumably I have ways of dealing with it. Next up is Incineroar. This Pokemon is an Intimidator, but I do not know if it'll be bringing Intimidate because of my Defiant Pokemon. It probably will, though, just because it's a good way of, coming in on something that may have set up and stopping it from being as effective. Although it doesn't want to come in against Gyarados or Flygon or what else? I think it's coming. I think it's definitely coming because it's a good check to Jirachi. It's a good check to Ninetales, and it's a decent. It's got decent utility. It's good pivot as well. So I can definitely see that one coming. Doublade is, I've never really had a chance to use this Pokemon, so I don't really know what it's capable of other than, just being a decent physical wall, being able to set up and then use priority Shadow Sneak to do a ton of damage. So I don't know how effective that's going to be, but I still think he might bring it just because he does not have a fighting type switch in otherwise. So I can definitely see this thing coming just for that. Next up is Shuckle. Or not Shuckle, Stunfisk. Stunfisk is a pretty awesome electric type. It's electric ground, which is, I think, is the only it's the only electric ground typing that I can think of off the top of my head. Probably the only one. Gets pretty good ground and electric special type attacks. It gets stealth rocks. I think it's his only electric immunity. And no, it's got Dugtrio, of course. But I don't think it'll come, but again, it might. But it's not that big of a deal to deal with. I think even Gyarados with an Earthquake can take it out. Maybe at +1. And it just invites in Flygon like crazy. Or Ninetales. There's not much they can do. It can do against Flygon in particular, so I don't think it'll come for that reason. And last is Shuckle. Shuckle is, it's a weird Pokemon. It's so goofy, but it's a sticky web user, and I could see him bringing sticky webs despite how good it is for me and my Defiant Pokemon. Simeon, I can see it coming. Webs, they don't really help him all that much, but it's a good stealth rocker. It can do some crazy things. It can stop me from setting up with Encore or Taunt. It can get rocks up pretty safely. I think because he has such bad hazard removal, he might just try to get rocks and webs up early on. And I have a way of taking advantage of that. So that is my opponent's team. It's a good team. He's 0-2, and his differential isn't good either. But it's a very scary team, and I don't want to underestimate him. He's got some fast pokes. He's got a lot of good counters to my team. He's got some scary setup as well, but he is, again, weak on the hazard removal, and he's very vulnerable to some of my sweepers, and I'm going to try to take advantage of that. So, first up, we've got Grimstar. Oh, this thing is always going to be first. We're running a special Nasty Plot set this week, and I didn't put like a ton of thought into these EV spreads. I just went all out on like max HP. That is odd. And like I'm like, okay, we're just gonna throw everything else into defense and special defense evenly. Like I didn't sort of try to think about, okay, this can take 2 earthquakes from what's his name into something else. No, it's just I split 256 in half and gave each to defense and special defense evenly, which is cool. They both ended up being 111, which is kind of nice. So we've got Nasty Plot that boosts our special attack by 2. We've got Dark Pulse and Dazzling Gleam for stab, and Focus Blast for, I believe we have that for Duraludon. I don't like moves that miss like Focus Blast does, but if we're using it in our Gigantamax form, it doesn't miss. It's just a really good fighting type attack. And yeah, with Nasty Plot and that Life Orb, if we manage to get a Nasty Plot up, those Dark Pulses are going to do a lot of damage. I don't know that we can OHKO or everything. We can probably OHKO pretty much everything after a Nasty Plot and a Life Orb. But there's still the Corviknight, which can definitely take a Dark Pulse. However, if I do the move Max Darkness in Gigantamax form, it lowers the opponent's special defense. So it might be a 2-hit KO, depending on his HP and EV spreads. Next up, we have Flygon. Flygon is an amazing sweeper this week. It was last week, but we didn't even bring it in. In fact, I don't think we've brought this thing in yet. It's got maximum HP to ensure that it can set up. It's got enough speed. I think this is enough speed to outspeed a Scarfed Inteleon after 2 Dragon Dances. Because once this thing gets 2 Dragon Dances, I think it's over. I win. It's awesome. We've got Earthquake, because Earthquake just runs through my opponent's team. It pretty much covers everything except for Corviknight and Leafeon. We've got Thunder Punch for the Corviknight and Dragon Claw for the Leafeon. It also does very well against Goodra. We've got, obviously, Dragon Dance to set up with. And an Expert Belt gives us additional damage that we need to break through Corviknight. Because otherwise that thing might just, like, roost on us all day, depending on what sort of setup it has. After that, we have Love Sakura. This is our first week bringing Alolan Ninetales. We have another Nasty Plot set here. This thing is max special attack for max damage. You've got enough speed for, oh god, what is the speed for? I think this is just barely enough to outspeed a Leafeon that is creeping a Roserade. And I think everything else is in HP. We've got Moonblast and Freeze Dry for dual stab. They hit a lot of his team very well. I think the only thing that resists both of those moves is Deblade. But we've got Nasty Plot, so we can just keep pumping up on Nasty Plots, and we can eventually, just do so much damage that Deblade falls to us. But that's not what really this thing's here for. This thing is here to set snow, get up an Aurora Veil, and have that Aurora Veil last 8 turns because of Light Clay. And we're going to use those Aurora Veils to help set up my Dragon Dancers and Grimstar. Speaking of Dragon Dancers, we've got Kiadimundi. Yes, Gyarados is coming the 3rd week in a row. I'm actually bringing it every week this season. Gyarados, we've got another Dragon Dancer. We've got max attack adamant, pretty much. We have enough speed. I think this is another +2 speed creep. I did this. I did these EVs a while ago, so I can't actually remember what it's for. But I think at +2 we outspeed a Scarfed Duraludon, trying to outspeed us at max speed at +1. That totally made sense, and all of you understood it on my first try. I am amazing. Yep. We've got a Wakanda Berry. This thing is to allow us to set up against any electric type moves. He's got a lot of pokes that can be running sneaky electric type moves. He's got Thunderbolt on his dragons. I think Thunder Punch on the Incineroar. And, you know, there's Stunfisk, just being Stunfisk. Yeah. This thing basically crushes his entire team except, again, Leafeon. But even then, Leafeon doesn't exactly do very well back to me. I could just maybe, like, substitute again and just keep hitting it until it dies. Although it does have Wish, so maybe that's not a viable strategy. Maybe I'd have to get rid of the Leafeon first. But that's if he brings Leafeon, because Leafeon is not, like, again, it's not regarded as great Pokemon. Although, it's kind of nice. It's deceptively strong on defense. I think it's got a 130 defense stat, which is not something you'd expect from a grass type. Yeah, we've got Substitute for dodging Toxics and whatnot, and allowing us to Dragon Dance more safely. And, of course, we've got Dragon Dance. And next up we have Rhyperior. This Rhyperior is our primary Corviknight check, which is kind of strange because it has a type advantage against us. So we've got max HP, max attack, and the rest in defense. So we're running a move called Smackdown, and what Smackdown does is it's a rock type move. Hits kind of weak for a rock type move, but what it does is it makes the opponent flying types vulnerable to earthquakes. And once again, everything just gets wrecked by earthquake, except for Leafeon. But we have Heat Crash on this thing. That Heat Crash is for Leafeon, even though, like, the thing is, a Leafeon could come in and just Leaf Blade us to death. I don't think there's much we can do about it, although we could probably take one. We do have Solid Rock. We do have really high HP and a little bit of defense. I'm going to see, I might allocate more to defense so I can guarantee live a Leaf Blade. But yeah, the Heat Crash will just OHKO it, even though it's a very strong defensive Pokemon. It'll pretty much OHKO it. And another thing I have to keep in mind that Heat Crash does not work against Gigantamax Pokemon. I think there's an issue with weight. Like, it uses weight to calculate how much damage it does, and I think Gigantamax Pokemon for some reason don't have a weight stat or something crazy like that. But now I can't run it against that. We're running Stealth Rock on it as well. Again, my opponent doesn't have a lot of hazard removal. Unfortunately, my sort of hazard setter is kind of my primary check to my opponent's strongest Pokemon, so I don't want it taking much damage. But there might be an opportunity where I can get this thing in and pop up a Stealth Rock. So hopefully I will do that. We've got Rocky Helmet as well, just for some additional, you know, rocks. You can't have enough rocks on this. So yeah, more rocks. Rocks are good. Alrighty, lastly, we've got Simeon. We are running a Scarfed set on this thing for some speed control. His potential Scarfers, which I see coming, would either be Inteleon or Duraludon. They're going to be faster than this thing Scarfed, but hey, it's no big deal. This thing is basically my Sticky Webs check. It's also an Intimidate check of sorts. Basically, his move Defiant, if I have one of my stats lowered, it raises my attack stat by 2. So Intimidate actually gives me +1, and Sticky Webs gives me +2 attack, and the speed differential is neutralized between the Choice Scarf. We've got maximum Adamant attack on this. We've got enough speed, I think, to outspeed all of his non-Scarfed Pokemon, particularly the Dugtrio. So a Scarfed Simeon should be able to outspeed his Dugtrio and kill it. Close Combat. I talked about this earlier, but he does not have a switch into it other than Doublade, which may not even come. Everything else is neutral or super effective, so yeah, just a Choice Scarf Close Combat Stab. That's just going to run through my opponent's team if he doesn't bring his Doublade. If he does, we have Knockoff, which will take off its Violite if it's running it. It might probably be running Life Orb, though. We've got U-Turn for momentum. And once again, we have Earthquake, because Earthquake hits just about everything on this team really hard. That is the team. The Simeon is actually going to be our lead. We're probably just going to lead with it, use U-turn if we want momentum into a better lead. We'll knock off on certain pokes, like if it's if he leads to Blade, we'll definitely knock off. Same with Incineroar, because he'll probably be switching out into something. Probably to Blade if it's there. Everything else, we might just start clicking close combat and start getting some damage off. Again, we're going to try to get up rocks pretty early. But our ultimate goal is going to be to get Ninetales in, get an Aurora Veil up, and then somehow get in one of our dragons and just start dancing. We need to keep in mind that we have to keep Rhyperior healthy. That is our check to Corviknight. It's probably not going to be thrown away against a Jolteon like Sock did, especially because I'm not bringing Jolteon this week. I really have to play smart. I have to be very conscious of what tricky things my opponents can do, because there's a lot of trickiness potential on this team. We really have to scout to see what my opponent's items are, because the sets that I'm most afraid of him bringing are choice sets. I think Banded Dugtrio does amazing. Scarfed Inteleon and Duraludon are great checks to my sweepers. Again, Leafeon's pretty good check, at least a temporary check to my sweepers as well. Yeah, he's not going to bring 3 Scarfers or 3 choice pokes, so I need to sort of scout out which is which, and that's going to inform how I go about sweeping with my hyper offense team. And I guess last, I have to watch out for priority. He's got a lot of pokes that have priority moves. Stunfisk gets Sucker Punch. The Blade gets Shadow Sneak. Dugtrio gets Sucker Punch. Yeah, quick attack on Leafeon, and I want to say Inteleon. I know it gets Sucker Punch, but I think it gets Ice Shard as well. I also need to be concerned about that. Yeah, lots of things to be concerned about. Lots of counters that I need to undo so I can sweep. And it's going to be a fun match. Stay tuned. It's coming tomorrow, Sunday. Enjoy.